She is gone, but she used to be mine. I think it's time we found a way back home. You lose so many things you love as you grow. I miss the days when I was just a kid. My fear became my shadow, I swear it did. Wherever is your heart, I call home. Wherever is your heart, I call home. Though your feet may take you far from me, I know. Wherever is your heart, I call home. Made me feel like I was always falling down.
Good morning. Welcome to Watershed. We are so glad that you are here today. If you're joining us online, we want to give you a second to log in to greet your other friends joining you online. If you're here in person, I want to invite you to stand. We're going to begin this morning by singing together.
When's the last time you felt staying in the chaos? Hear the sound when the seas fall to earth. Is it time to give up your destination? Slow me down and let love do its work. Let my soul rise up to meet you. Day rises to the sun. Let my soul rise up to meet you. Let that vision kingdom come. As the trees and the birds leave the forest, it was so hard in this center. So still, is it time for a change in direction? Slow me down where I've been till. Let my soul rise up to meet you. As the day rises to the sun, let my soul slow me down. Slow me down. Let love do its work. Let my soul rise up to meet you. As the day rises to the sun, let my soul rise up to meet you. Let that vision kingdom come.
Thank you for singing with us this morning. We want to give you a second to greet the people around you, acknowledge everyone who's here in the room, maybe smile, say hello, and then we will continue with the morning.
Good morning, everybody. It's a little loud. But welcome. Welcome. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Thank you. Cool. So good to see all your faces here. We're actually going to sing one of my favorite songs at the moment, but I wanted to set it up and invite you into the experience because we recognize that a lot of you are coming in from different places. And so maybe you had a really fantastic week full of connection. Maybe you're coming in feeling really lonely. There's a lot of worries on your heart. And we want you to know that that's welcome here. A couple years ago, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. So this week for me has been really anxious in my body, a little jittery. But a therapist one time told me when all the thoughts come racing, try going to a gratitude practice. And it's really difficult sometimes because it's when there's pain, when there's suffering, gratitude can be the last thing on our mind. And so however you are showing up today, I want to invite you into this gratitude practice, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe that's sitting down and letting us sing over you. Maybe that's you singing over somebody. Maybe that's you swaying in your body, being grateful that in this moment, right here, right now, we're all together. And that's a miracle. And I can sing a billion songs and dance till my feet are numb, spin till I'm empty and bold. I can't praise you enough. I can shout till my voice gives way and leave till I have no strength. Lose my breath trying to explain. I can't praise you enough. And if time were to stall, I could never tell it all. Words of you, there's so left to do. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful. And I just wanna thank you. And I just wanna thank you. And I just wanna thank you. Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Sing till I found my song, dance till my heart will go. When I move to the rhythm of love, can't praise you enough. your breath dancing. Never going back to that grace. Can't praise you enough. And the time when it started, I can never tell it all words of you. So this will have to do. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful. Standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness, you have overwhelmed us. Hallelujah. Standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You're just getting started. Hallelujah. Standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You have overwhelmed us. Hallelujah. Standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You're just getting started. Hallelujah. Oh, I'm standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You have overwhelmed us. Hallelujah. Standing in the promise, surrounded by your goodness. You're just getting started. Hallelujah. And the time when I start, I can never tell in all words of you. So this'll have to do. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful.
We just want to thank you.
I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I just wanna thank you. I'm so grateful. One more time. And I just wanna thank you for your goodness. I just wanna thank you for your mercy. I just wanna thank you. You're so good. So grateful. And God, this morning as we enter into this space, God, may we find exactly what we need. May we find the places of ourselves that are closed off. May we approach this morning with a sense of openness, a sense of profound love, and a willingness to be present. A willingness to see what happens. God, we thank you for this space, the people in it, and your presence. In your name we pray. Amen. You can be seated.
You good?
Yeah,
I'm good. You good?
I'm great.
Okay. Keep it short.
Keep it short.
Hey, Watershed fam. We are so excited.
30
Ready?
seconds. Super tight, short. Ready, go. I want to clap this time.
Okay, go.
That sounded
There
weird.
you go.
Oh my god.
There you go. Hey, Watershed fam. Lewis and Kristen here, and we have some exciting news. We are moving to Charlotte, North Carolina to be part of the Watershed team.
Yes, we are so excited to join you all. Thank you so much for how you welcomed and embraced us into your community, even from across the country. We can't wait to build friendship with you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to deep roots. We're looking forward to raising our family there. We're looking forward to being an integral part of a team that is already doing an incredible work in Charlotte. Watershed, we'll see you guys in less than a month, and we are pumped about it. So we will see you all soon.
Well, good morning. That's our first announcement this morning. So for those of you maybe unaware, weren't around a couple weeks ago when Lewis and Kristen were visiting us, you really missed out, not just because of them, because we also had a chili cook-off, which was a lot of fun. But yes, so Louis Acosta is going to be joining our team in, like he said, less than a month, about mid-March is when he's going to be starting here. We are incredibly excited about that, not just because of Louis. Like when Louis applied for our open music position, we were excited about him, but then we met Kristen. She's even better. So we are that much more excited that both of the Acostas are going to be joining us. And so nothing for all y'all to do just yet, but there's going to be opportunities to get to know them better, to meet them when they get here. And we know that you are going to be as welcoming to them as you are to everyone else who walks through these doors, because that's kind of what we're all about. So be excited about that. Don't worry, Austin's not leaving, so you don't have to be sad about that. I would have been sad, but no, he's sticking around. So more on that in the near future, but we just wanted to let you know officially that this is happening. So a couple other things. First and foremost, we've been taking each week this month to talk about Black History Month. In the first 2 weeks of February, we focused on some of the people that we work with here at Watershed who are doing incredible work. We highlighted the work of Bishop Tanya Rawls, her organization, the Freedom Center for Social Justice, which is doing crucial work at the intersection of anti-racism, LGBTQIA inclusion, and spiritual faith spaces. Last week, we looked at the work of Block Love, the work of Feed the Movement, Greater Charlotte Rise, some of the incredible Black-led organizations here in Charlotte who are doing important work with our unhoused population and those most on the margins. This week, we want to give you a little bit of insight into our community's own journey when it comes to both anti-racism, but also the robust and frequently overlooked world of Black theology and Black spirituality. And so if you go to the recommended resources section of our website, you'll see a lot of the books, a lot of the podcasts, a lot of the things that have been crucial in educating and leading us and our team and our community over the years. And selfishly, as the theologian or the theological nerd on staff, I'm most excited about some of the podcasts because it's an opportunity to, like Homebrewed Christianity, for example. The host, Tripp Fuller, has done a series with incredible theologians like Lisa Sharon Harper, Adam Clark, James Cone, before he passed away a few years ago, Reggie Williams, incredible, brilliant Black theologians doing work in Black liberation theology, Black dialectical theology, and a whole bunch of other nerdy things that I care about, that you should care about, and you can learn about them and learn from them through some of the resources that we have on our website. So just wanted to highlight that. Check it out. I'm happy to direct you if there's something specific that you're looking for. Literally, my favorite thing to do is give people resources. So you can go do that. A couple other things on the horizon here at Watershed. First Tuesday in March, we're kicking off our next round of Preface and Reclamation. Preface is, you can kind of see whether or not it's for you there on the screen, but basically if you are new or newer to Watershed, or maybe if you haven't been here in a while, and you're kind of wondering, like, what's changed since, a few years ago, before the pandemic, things like that, we would highly recommend going to Preface. You get to hang out with Matt O'Neill, our lead pastor and one of our founding pastors, hear a little bit about the spiritual story, spiritual journey of Watershed, but the most important part, by far, are the other stories you get to hear about, the other people who you get to go through Preface with, who you get to meet. Many of the relationships forged in Preface continue into other programmatic spaces here at Watershed or even outside of Watershed. There are people who we love dearly who don't even go here anymore, but they still maintain many of the relationships that they created and found in Preface. And so sign up for that. If you've done Preface already, then come hang out with me in Reclamation. Reclamation is an opportunity to go a little bit deeper on a theological or doctrinal topic that maybe used to make sense in a certain way in whatever spirituality that you inherited growing up, but it doesn't work in whatever spirituality that you inherited growing up, but it doesn't work that way anymore. It doesn't work anymore, and it's an opportunity to recontextualize, translate, reimagine, or of course reclaim what that could mean for us today. And so we're going to be exploring the topic of gospel. Kind of a big deal, potentially. And I'm really, really excited because I'm going to have a special guest, Lewis Conley, who's going to be co-leading this with me. And just like as an added incentive, if you needed one, which you probably didn't, but just in case, Lewis has an accent. And it is real smooth. And so I'm gonna be trying to let Lewis talk as much as possible during this time. I've gotten his permission to sort of like fetishize his voice this way, so if that's all you needed, sign up for that, and then you'll get some cool theological nerdiness on the side. But that is running concurrent with Preface. Both are starting Tuesday, March 7th, 6:45 p.m. to about 8:15. Childcare is provided for free, but it does fill up, and we need to know, especially if you are checking in kids, we need to know how many childcare providers to book. So please sign up for that. And then just one final reminder, the fully digital experience, Atheism for Lent, kicks off this Wednesday, Ash Wednesday. We've got a ton of signups for that. I'm super, super excited. If you sign up for it, you'll get more information. But I think Matt mentioned this next week. Pete Rollins, who is the kind of creator and curator of this experience, has agreed, near the end probably, to pop into one of our Zoom sessions to hang out. And, again, if you needed added incentive, also has a cool accent. So kind of a common theme across the board here. So there's still some time to sign up for that if you want to. Kindred, which is the LGBTQI leadership and community within Watershed, they plan a ton of stuff, and the next thing that they are kicking off that we are excited about is Brunch with Kindred. It's going to happen monthly at rotating locations. You can see here it's going to be at Pizza Peel on the 26th, which is next week. Go to that, be part of that, but we also kind of want to use this opportunity to remind you all that we have a calendar. And this calendar has all of our social functions, opportunities to meet people, to hang out, to forge community here at Watershed. And I kid you not, 50 to 75% of the stuff on there is planned and led by Kindred. So they are running out ahead of everyone else to just really own and lead what community and relationship building looks like here at Watershed. And so we are grateful for that. And we just encourage you, if you're ever what do I want to do this week? Check out the Watershed calendar, because I guarantee that there are opportunities for you to meet people, to connect, and to get plugged in. So yeah, that's what's coming up. All of this, everything I'm talking about, the partnerships that we have here in Watershed, bringing on a new music pastor, what's going on outside in the garden, downstairs, and in the hallway here with Greenhouse and our students. All of that's made possible because so many of you partner with us, both showing up, volunteering, but then also funding financially what it takes to make Watershed happen. Matt mentioned last week that it's about $14,000 a week to make Watershed happen, and the way that we try to go about making that sustainable is through reoccurring giving. So just to give you some context for this, that $100 a month number is sort of the number that we arrived at, kind of knowing that, all right, if we increase this monthly over the course of a 12-month calendar year, that would allow us to dream a little bit, to plan, to invite incredible thinkers, authors, pastors, guest speakers, things like that, many of whom we're excited to announce in the near future. We kind of have a big calendar plan for this year. But we also know that, like, for many of you, like, that number's not realistic. And so we never want anyone to feel guilty or feel any kind of, pressure on that front. And then we know some of you are capable of being even more generous. And so just know that that number is a baseline, and we are so grateful, so appreciative of those of you who partner with us and take ownership of the work that we do here, the mission that we have here in doing so. So as always, a number of secure ways to give: QR code, website, metal boxes in the back for those old school people who still have checkbooks. And that about sums it up. So thank you for being here this morning. I'll see you again in a couple minutes, but I'm going to turn you back over to the team behind me.
Nothing ever comes like it did when you were in it. Just a memory of a kid, just a washed out finish. Just a pain in the ass, Johnny Cash middle finger. No shooting up drugs, no quitter is a winner. Nothing ever comes like it did when you were in it. Keeping nothing for yourself, just a stone cold killer. Now you're passing your people like a ship in the night. Looking to a stranger for a fight. Nothing ever comes if you call it. Choking like a dog in a collar. Open up your mouth if you want it. Listen for the sound is coming now. Hoping that your light never lit. Relying on the kindness of strangers that you will be forgiven. How many times will you shit on what you're giving? How many times do you shut up and listen? Nothing ever comes if it comes, you call it. Choking like a dog on your collar. Open up your mouth if you want it. Listen for the sound is coming now. Nothing ever comes if you call it. Choking like a dog on a collar. Open up your mouth if you want it. Listen for the sound is coming. Nothing ever comes if it comes. Choking like a dog
really love that jingle that plays during our little bumper video. It reminds me of like an 80s talk show, at least how I imagine an 80s talk show. I was very young in the 80s. I was alive then, though. And so we have finally, in my opinion, found a Sunday morning format that matches the jingle. As you can see that there's a handful of other stools up here with me. I'm going to be inviting a couple guests up here in a moment. But just to give you a little bit of context. So this series that we're currently in is a series or a version of a series that we do every single year here at Watershed, some kind of relationship series. Earlier on, when Watershed was a very different kind of church, a very different kind of community, socially, theologically, that series looked a little different, looked a little more traditional, binary, plenty of other probably more pejorative words you could use about that series. And as Watershed has evolved as a community, so too, look at that, or listen to that, so too has this series evolved alongside with us. There was maybe a time when it was focused primarily on just romantic relationships, and then like monogamous heterosexual romantic relationships. And of course, we've broadened our purview to include all manners of relationships, LGBTQIA and otherwise. And then beyond just romantic relationships, talking about friendships, platonic relationships, intergenerational relationships, working relationships, the relationship that you have with yourself. And amidst all of that, we have been hyper aware that us as whatever we are, pastors, spiritual leaders, are not experts in the area of relationships. And we have benefited from and been blessed by having people in our community many of whom are professionally trained, psychotherapists, analysts, counselors, things like that, who have arrived at that profession from many different means and avenues and things like that. And so one of whom, of course, is Kim Honeycutt, who is on our teaching team. And so we wanted in this, thank you, Kim, I knew that was going to happen, which is why I did it. In this series, we wanted to have the opportunity to hear a little bit less from me, from us, and a little bit more from them. And so I had Kim give me like an all-star list of therapists, counselors within the area who we could invite and call upon, and just spend a little bit of time learning from, yes, their expertise, but I think even more so learning from their stories, their own experiences, because that is a form of expertise that is just as valuable often as the kind of formal academic whatever, that we may or may not have access to. So with that, I've already talked too much. I want to invite our panel of therapists up here. If they could join me, you can give them whatever welcome you're feeling. So this is Amy Travis, who is a member of our hospitality team here at Watershed. Thomas Floyd, who is not a member of the hospitality team. And John Nance, who was once a member of the hospitality team. So none of this has anything to do with the hospitality team, though. Sorry, hospitality team. What I did want to do, though, is give you all just a moment to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, acknowledging, one, that the small amount of time I've allotted you cannot encompass or capture who you are, but we could literally, I know a little bit of all three of their stories, we could literally spend all of our time up here this morning on any one of them individually, and we would run out of time because there's such a richness in their experiences. I tell you that only to disappoint you. We're only going to get a little snippet of it, and then we're going to talk about some other things. But I just wanted to acknowledge just the beautiful stories that are up here sitting with me. So, start with you.
Well, is this thing on?
It is.
Okay, cool. As David said, I'm Amy Travis, and I'm already sweating, so that's good. I can't see any of you, which is also good. So I am a licensed clinical social worker. I work in South End here in Charlotte. And I've been practicing private practice for almost 2 years now, and I was a school-based counselor before that, and originally I'm from southwestern Virginia. But yeah, I work with mainly adults, trauma-informed, anxiety, depression, but I love what I do, and I'm really passionate about it. So yeah.
And your family.
Oh, my family?
Yeah, if you want,
Oh.
if that's okay.
My husband's name's Andrew. He's sitting there
Not on
smiling
the
at me
hospitality
right
team.
now. He does
The tech team,
Tech
also
team.
a great team to join.
And my daughter Jillian, she's in greenhouse downstairs, and my parents are here today. Hello. So yeah, that's a little bit about my family.
Love it. We love your family.
Thanks. We love you too.
It's up to y'all. I mean, Thomas, you already have the mic.
I'm Thomas Floyd. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor here in Charlotte. I'm a group practice owner, so my practice is based in Pineville, and I primarily specialize in couples, work, a lot of trauma, which is a lot of fun for people like us. We enjoy that kind of stuff. I'm also an Enneagram 4, so that's a little bit about me. It's not as great as it sounds. I mean, it is, but it gets a little annoying to be emotionally connected to trees and plants and everything. So, yeah, and I'm happy to be here. I think it's really cool that, Watershed is providing a space for something like this, because I think, maybe in the church circles that I grew up with, this would be heresy. So to talk about psychology and the relationship between psychology and spirituality. And she's going to hate this because she's a 2, but my fiance's here. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Welcome.
And I'm John Nance. I'm the old guy on the panel. And I've been practicing for 19 years in private practice. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, supervisor, and I teach counseling in the master's and PhD program at UNC Charlotte. And another piece is I'm the chair of the Southern Region for the American Counseling Association, and my area of focus in practice is adult survivors of early childhood catastrophic torture and trauma. And so the symptoms would align with a diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, and the former name of that is multiple personality disorder. I'm not as funny as them. Yeah, I know.
Or are you?
I know. And I have a partner of 22 years who puts up with me.
I'm going to embarrass John just a little bit and say that if you want to learn more of John's story in particular, there's an amazing conversation that he had a number of years ago with one of our founding pastors, Scott Hofert, about a lot of things, not least of which is the crucial role that John had in Watershed's own journey to becoming whatever it was before, to whatever we're striving to be now, which is in part... So... It was not my intent to sabotage John in that way, but we are grateful for him. So y'all kind of already touched on it a little bit in your introductions, or at least some of the things that I had emailed you about potentially talking about. But one of them in particular, Thomas, that you brought up that seemed to have the most energy between the three of you is the, at best, maybe ambivalent, and at times, maybe more often, fraught, dare I say, accusations of heresy, relationship that the church, broadly speaking, spiritual communities have with all things psychological, therapeutic, etc. And so there's a number of ways that we could maybe take this conversation. There is like the particular sort of divide within church circles around this, and then there's also just the experience of religious trauma that people have had. And so I'm going to not necessarily narrow the field here. You guys can jump onto either one, but either speaking from your own experience, therapeutically, personally, let's start out by talking a little bit about that, talking a little bit about either the divide that exists within spiritual spaces, churches in particular, or just, the challenge of spiritual religious trauma and its prevalence, what that looks like to navigate. What comes to mind when I lob that bomb at you?
I'll go first. I think for me, some of this is the work that we do as clinicians and therapists, but for me, it's personal as well, right? Like I grew up in, by the way, I didn't say this, but I'm originally from South America, so I was born and raised in Santiago, Chile. So I lived the first 11 years of my life in a foreign country, and my dad was a missionary, and so church and church involvement, particularly around evangelical spaces, was that's my background. And I think for me, my desire to not only help people, but to help myself kind of heal from all that comes from that was really big. So when I turned like 25 or 26, I started asking the question, like, what if the ideas surrounding God and spirituality and the Bible and prayer were not what was handed down to me? And that got me in a lot of trouble. So,
Welcome.
And so as I started kind of learning and researching and even grieving what I thought God was, or what I thought the Bible was, or what I thought any of it was, I think I realized that for me, and I think for a lot of people, there's a tearing apart of emotional health and spiritual growth. So those are oftentimes like disconnected from each other. And so what you have is you have a lot of people that claim to be like spiritually mature, that are some of the most emotionally immature humans in the world. And so I had to, as I started working on my own like emotional immaturity, I had to face the fact that kind of stuff just isn't being taught at churches. And so, I guess for me, that's just a good starting point, that one of the revelations or the conclusions that I've kind of landed on is that those cannot be separated any longer. You can't be a spiritually mature person and also be wildly emotionally immature. And so, anyways, yeah.
I also believe that we're not broken when we are struggling. We may use the terms of brokenness, but I don't think we're broken. I think we have to go through it. I don't know when we're not really going through it either. Coming from an evangelical background and coming through that background as a gay man, a gay kid that was not accepted, I don't know that we can talk about this without even reflecting on our personal stories. Right. And I don't know that anybody in here, I'm imagining if you're at Watershed, you have some kind of background in your own process of spiritual trauma, intensity of questioning, whatever that would be, because we are not normal, right? And yet, we should be. Our process of challenging what we've been told all of the years that keep us hurting, it has to be challenged. And then knowing ourselves is the most critical, is knowing that we are hurting, knowing that we don't have to be perfect and we never will be perfect. And the ideal that we always try to live into is not achievable. I know I'm just like raining on the parade, right? It's not achievable. Our ideals that we've been seeing on Instagram and all these things are detrimental to our mental health. Mm-hmm. And so we have to challenge our ideals. Mm-hmm. And the ideals that were presented to us in ties and in the masculine. Mm-hmm.
I really like what you said about challenging ideals. And that didn't really happen for me personally until I hit high school. I'm from a very, very small town in the Appalachian Mountains in southwestern Virginia. And growing up, I grew up in church. I grew up starting out in Southern Baptist. Hello, Mom and Dad. Then transitioning to Pentecostal holiness. So I won't run in the aisles or speak in tongues today. But my parents weren't super structured in that, but that was culturally part of our family. And back in the day, I didn't challenge those thoughts or ideals. I went with what I was told, and until I hit high school and I was kind of exposed to more diversity. I was a theater kid, and I was exposed to a lot more, and I think I challenged that. And then grad school was huge for me in shifting my perspective and my thinking and opening up my mind. The program that I went through was life-changing for me. And since then, I think the attending churches has been much harder for me, because I see so much injustice in the evangelical church, and ones that they even call non-denominational. I remember attending our church in Virginia, and there were no women who spoke on Sunday mornings, and that really bothered me. Because it was like, the women belong with the kids, and so I struggled with that. There's so many things I could talk about that I struggled with, but I think, and in my practice today, I see a lot of people in their 20s, a lot of clients who feel the same way and who come to me and say, I just struggled with this for so many years. I struggled with the church not affirming my sexuality or my gender. And I kind of, at times, struggle not over-identifying with that. And I kind of have to share, I'll disclose a little bit, but I want to leave that room for the client to be able to tell me what their experience was. But I want them to know I identify with them to some extent, and I'm sharing that space with them. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but.
I didn't really ask that great of a question. I just kind of lobbed it out there. One thing that you all three of you touched on to varying degrees, John, you explicitly, was this notion of like an ideal or something that's considered normative. And what struck me as someone who's spent over a decade working in ministry is, for us, for people like me in the position that I'm in, often that expectation placed upon us sort of forecloses an opportunity for us to be vulnerable and open about our own mental health, and because there's a sort of an expectation that the person who is supposedly spiritually mature is mature across the board. There's a fear or reticence to shatter that expectation by owning or opening up to struggles, to vulnerability, to things like that. And so it creates this harm-perpetuating cycle where hurt people, go on to hurt people. And so it's been massively freeing, for me personally, to be in a place where, talking about mental health is normative, and that's the new normal, is just being able to be open and honest about that. The question that I have, though, towards y'all is, in a way, you, for some, may occupy a position similar to us insofar as people come to you assuming that you've got it all figured out and all together because, you've gone through whatever formal training or whatever. You're relationship experts, love experts like the trolls on Frozen. And
Are you going to break out into song now?
Ooh, no, I will not. I will not, much to my daughter's disappointment. But so you even alluded to it a moment ago. What does that tension look like for y'all? Like balancing on some level, yeah, you do know things. You have tools, you have resources, you have some level of knowledge or expertise that can be used to heal, to help, to to hold space for, and yet you also have relationships, and you have your own experiences, struggles. What is that? What does navigating that look like for y'all?
I don't do it well. I'll sit there in a session and go, oh. And I will leave the room, and I have to remind myself to come back, and it's instantaneous, hopefully. I struggle in a relationship. For 12 years in the relationship, I had my hand on the doorknob, looking at apartments through the area. Can I live in it? Yeah. 12 years not communicating that with my partner. And we went to therapy, and we are okay. We argue well. When we argue, there are those times, though, where I'm like, who is this after 23 years? And in therapeutic settings, that we call it countertransference, right? That identifying of my life as a result of their story happens a lot. We have to filter it quickly. There are so many times I want to say, scoot over, I need the sofa. And I can't do that, but I can use my awareness of self not to get what they're telling me, but to empathize with the pain or the struggle that they're experiencing. And then my task is to help them argue well, help them conflict. We believe in group process in relationships, that healthy conflict produces healthy relationships, and frequent. And so it is the roller coaster.
Does that look me going?
It's up to you.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think just going off of what you were saying, I think as therapists, we have to be able to name our limitations or even our weaknesses, because if you don't, you're gonna damage people really, really quickly. And so for me, I had to learn very quickly that if I wasn't aggressive about my own stuff, then I was going to end up hurting the people that I was trying to help. So, practically what that looks like is, how vulnerable do we want to be?
Go for it. This is a safe space.
So I grew up in a Hispanic household. That should tell you enough. So if I was helping somebody that, let's just say, triggered my own stuff, I had to be aware that before I reflected anything back to the person, that I was coming at it from my own stuff, and that could end up hurting the person. And so for therapists that that ask me hey, what makes a good therapist? Being incredibly curious about your own stuff has to be primary. More than any other kind of school of thought or modality or anything like that, you have to be curious about your own stuff. So I think that's what it just, for me though, I also think there is imposter syndrome that kicks in pretty quickly, especially if I have a rough day or if I'm struggling in my own relationship. Those thoughts do come to mind, who am I to do this? Who am I to really be able to help navigate people through this? And so, that's real, that's vulnerable. I'm not gonna say that those aren't thoughts that I don't have.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think imposter, I love that you mentioned that, by the way, because it's real and it's very prevalent in the therapeutic community. I think that in my practice, I really try to tell my clients that I also see a therapist, because I think that helps us relate. It gets me on their level, and kind of this mutual understanding that, I'm a human being and I'm not perfect, And, I think it's also important to let your clients know and kind of walk alongside them in their journey and know that we can give them the tools that they need to use, but we can't fix people. The work largely relies on the client outside of session. I think I struggle with that in my own, with my own therapist. So it's really important for, I think, our clients to know and for people to know that we're human and we make mistakes and we struggle in our relationships and we have trauma. And, growing up, to get vulnerable, I have been seeing a therapist since I was about 10 years old. I have a very long history of anxiety and depression and trauma, and it kind of has followed me all throughout my life, and it's the reason why I'm a therapist. Because, if it was not for, and I think this was probably one of the questions that was asked too, my parents, my mother really strongly encouraged me to seek therapy because she sought therapy for herself. And that is something back in the late 80s, early 90s was not seen as, you did not venture outside of the church for guidance. And in my extended family, that was looked down upon. You did not go to therapy. You prayed and you read your Bible, but you didn't go to therapy. I mean, that was a sin practically because you were seeking guidance outside of God. And so, I think that I struggled. If it wasn't for my mom, I would not have been in therapy and I would not have gotten the help that I need. And I wouldn't be where I am right now if it weren't for them.
Thank you for that. So, a little of what we've hit on are maybe a form of misconception, like the misconception that that you need to have it all together, the misconception that a healthy relationship is one devoid of conflict, the misconception that, if you're, well, maybe the misconception that anyone is really fully mature in any area, but certainly the misconception that if you are spiritually mature, that means you're emotionally mature, vice versa, not almost never the case. So I'm watching the clock as we sort of maybe begin to land the plane a little bit. Let's talk about other misconceptions. Are there misconceptions that you run into, that you experience from clients, or maybe even misconceptions that you still have about the work that you do in your own practice that you have to battle against, that you have to fight against as you're really going about the important work that you're talking about, the messy, very human work of, being honest about our experiences and our emotions and our mental health. So other than what we've named, or if you want to lean in deeper to some of the things we've already named, what are some misconceptions that you feel like you are wrestling with in your work on a weekly, day-to-day basis, whatever that looks like?
There's lots, but I'll just name a couple. I think one of them is that it's all about communication problems. I hear that a lot as a couples therapist. And communication is important, but communication with connection is what's important. I would say that connection is way more important than communication. Because just because you're communicating doesn't mean that you're connecting with the other person. And so a lot of what the psychoeducation that I provide for my people is to just learn to not only communicate, which is important, but it's also to connect with the other person. Because the person is trying to always essentially feel safe. Safety is important it's like a human thing. It's like belonging. We all want to belong somewhere, and we all want to feel safe. And so I think that's one of the big ones. I've heard couples say some pretty awful things to one another, but they're saying it in a tone that's so connected that the other person's like, yeah, totally, right? And so, like, I tell people all the time, you can get away with saying a lot if you just say it in a tone that's receptive. And that's because there's just a connection there that they feel. And so that's a big one. The other thing, too, I mean, you were telling me that y'all are in the middle of kind of like the love series, or kind of, sort of.
The love series.
But I think for me, and this has to do with spirituality and therapy, sometimes you have to be able to like dename something before you can name it. And for me, when I think about love or God or any of the big important things that Enneagram 4 spend way too much time thinking about, whatever it is, like, love is not coercion, it's not force. And in therapy, like as therapists, we can't force people. I even have my people I'm thinking about that I'm like, in my head, I'm like, if you were to only do this thing, right? But that's coercion, that's manipulation, that's whatever word you want to put in there. And so I think for me, love is letting go of what you think needs to happen and allowing that person to do whatever it is that they feel like they need to do in that moment. And I think that's just a really important thing in life, that love is not forced. And then I'll just share this Thomas Merton quote and I'll shut up. But like Thomas Merton has this quote where he says, love is not shape-shifting and forcing somebody to do or to be what you want them to be, but it's to perfectly allow them to be who they are. Because once we start forcing people to do what we want them to do, we're just stroking our own ego, and we're not allowing them to be who like God created them to be.
So good. I think one of the areas that I'm struggling with as a therapist right now in regard to relationships, and maybe it's a blind spot, I don't know, but I hear so much about leaving toxic relationships and, weaning out of, or whatever the language would be around that. And yet, what does that really mean? Are we giving up on things? We don't want to be in harmful and abusive relationships. We know that. But also, what is the work of the relationship? I don't have the answers around those things, but when I'm working with individuals struggling with a relationship, or when I'm working with couples struggling in relationship, I don't know how to challenge, when to challenge. Are they going closer together? Are they moving further apart? Do I help them do that successfully, or do I challenge in the opposite direction? I don't know. I have no answer on that, and so that's one of my dilemmas right now that I'm really wrestling with over the last year.
That's helpful.
I don't have an answer for that question. Yeah.
All right, well then, let's see. Perfect. Okay, so is there anything then instead that you want to leave us with? Any?
I think that something that I try to incorporate into practice, and maybe this kind of goes along with what was talked about, is the idea of being emotionally aware when you're in a relationship, and being aware of what your boundaries are, creating healthy boundaries. I see a lot, and the reason I didn't really have a great answer is because I don't really work with couples, but I work with individuals who are in relationships. And, a lot of the time they talk about their partner not, connecting with them emotionally. And, I think the thing that I work on with them first is getting to know themselves a little bit better and getting to name, how they're feeling, putting a name and verbalizing that. And we kind of practice and role play verbalizing that with their partner. And so I think that, that's a really important piece of my practice is helping clients name emotions and become aware and utilize that in their relationships.
Awesome. Well, we could do this for hours, and I think most of you would probably enjoy that, but that's not what these three signed up for. So we're going to have to call it there, but thank you to all three of you for this. Just so much wisdom, so much left unsaid that hopefully we'll get the opportunity to maybe learn from all three of you in some capacity in the future. But thank you once again. Could you all thank them? Next week, we'll be back to wrap up this series. Kim will be joining me. Yeah, there you go. I was waiting for it. Kind of like a tag team, like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's going to be awesome. So please come back and join us for that. Be sure to check that calendar that we were talking about. There are plenty of other ways to connect. Thank you once again. Let's grab these stools, and we'll let the band close it out.
I'm going to do a song that we've at Watershed been doing for years. It felt appropriate for this conversation. So again, we've been in this series on relationships, and I think, one of the things that comes up for me when I think about therapy is the relationship with self. So we're going to sing a song that talks about this kind of depersonalized you. But maybe this morning, the you that has life and hope and grace is not external but internal. Maybe you need a moment to reflect, to listen, to still your heart, to quiet yourself. Whatever you need in these next moments, it's available to you. If you'd like to stand as we sing, I want to invite you to do that. If you need to sit, feel free.
Could all that is lost ever be found? Could a garden come up from this ground at all? And you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us.
All around, life is springing up from this old ground. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. this morning we are all in process. And this morning finds us all in different places. And the opportunity is that we can continue to be made new. That with every breath we take, every morning that we wake up, there's opportunity for us to be made new. Like John said, brokenness is just part of the process. And when we can show up, verbalize that brokenness, that process, be seen, truly seen, and heard and loved on the other side of that, healing and newness can take place. And so, God, that is the opportunity. It's the opportunity for all of us here this morning, and it's the opportunity that we can give to the world. We can leave this morning, we can leave this service and commit to seeing others, to listening, to hearing others, to loving others. And God, may we find that in our relationships. May we be an example of that in our relationships. And may it change us. God, we thank you. We practice this art of gratitude right here for just a second. Each breath we take, breathe in, breathe out, we have an opportunity for gratitude. God, thank you. Thank you for this time, these people, this space. We love you. We love each other. In your name, amen. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you join us next week. Have a great Sunday.